couldn't hear you over the sound of how awesome that is. What was that?
Did someone say tail touch?
What's going on, YouTube? Today, Tony's not here with me. My buddy Will is here. We're gonna be reviewing the F-16 70mm from E-flite. I'm gonna go over everything about this plane, including what I had to do to it to get it up in the air. And my buddy Kieran is up flying right now, if you wanna track him real quick. He doesn't just fly drones, he also flies some pretty cool looking custom paint jobs on his Timber X. Looks just like a super decathlon up there. Good flying, bud. So, back to the F-16, I'm gonna go ahead and go over a quick review of this thing. We do not have full flying stabilators. That was one of the reasons why I didn't want to get this jet, because I don't think that elevator tips are acceptable on a model that has actual stabilators. Stabilators meaning an elevator surface that moves all the way up and down. It's not just a tip like this is. You can see that I had to rehinge these before I flew it. Unfortunately, the foam hinge is quite fragile. Even in testing, just before I got this thing up in the air, I haven't even flown it yet. Before I get it up in the air, the foam hinges started to wear out, so I had to go ahead and rehinge them. Bring this a little closer so you guys can see what I'm talking about. There are 4 foam hinges on each side. You coming in, bud? Yep. All right, let's go ahead and get out of his way. There are 4 foam hinges on each side. Why don't you catch his landing? Looking good. Look at that butter. Butter. All right, so 4 foam hinges are nylon steel pinned hinges on each side. I get these on Amazon. I'll put them in the description if you guys want them. It was an easy fix to make it work. We've got full possible rates and travel on this bugger. Let's go ahead and put a Spectrum Smart 4000 pack into it, and I'll show you guys the travel settings and how I've got it set up and the mixing that we're gonna be demonstrating today. So we're gonna fly this on a Spectrum pack. Don't normally do that much anymore with jets, but for this one, because I don't anticipate that we're gonna fly the absolute crap out of it in terms of power, the Spectrum packs will be more than enough to do what we need to do. We're also gonna balance this as far back as we can physically get it in here. You wanna come take a step up here, bud? So we can show you guys where the balancing is. And if you've noticed my hat, which I'm sure that no doubt by this point you have, I'm flying a 5280 RC Afterburner unit in here, which we're gonna go ahead and just plug in right here on the stock receiver system. Actually, no, not stock. This is an AR637 TA with voltage just set up on it. It's really hot out here. I'm having a hard time thinking and talking at the same time. All right, so here's the setup on the F-16. Let's go ahead and show you we have the gear locked so they can't come out or up or anything right now. They're just stuck down. That's full possible throw on the elevator, full possible throw on the ailerons and on the rudder. Let's go ahead and give them better perspective. So, see if you can lean down for me. That's the throw we're working with. A lot of Expo to dampen it. When the gear out, this is what we get versus this. Okay. All right, so another thing we're gonna try too is high G flap maneuvering. So as you pull the elevator, the flaps dump. And an alpha version that we can try. May not even need it. I heard this plane does exceptional with high alpha. All right, Kieran cleared the runway. We're gonna go ahead and get the F-16 down. Let's go ahead and do some taxi testing with it, make sure it's going straight. I did all that already. That's why the gear mix exists. There we go. Slight turn to the left, nothing really to be worried about. Before we fly, let's double check all of our directions. The cheapest insurance on a maiden flight is always to double, triple, and quadruple check everything. It's in Safe currently. Safe uses the same exact gyro as the AS3X system. So as we flip it upside down, obviously the directions there don't really matter much. It's just for show. Go to the left aileron goes down to push the wing up. Same for the right. As we nose down, the elevator tips push up. As we nose up, they push down. And the rudder is correcting in the right direction. Let's do this. You got this, sir? All right. Didn't want to get up. It flies similar so far to the 80mm F-16. How's the tracking so far, bud?
Looking good.
All right, cool. We're gonna go vertical. Very, very slow on the rolls. I kind of like it actually, but it should have full stabs in my opinion. Ooh, let's see how it handles the pitch mixing system, the flaps. Alpha. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, much more authority on the pitch. No problems keeping up with me, huh?
No problem.
How's the focusing? Pretty good?
Looking good.
All right. Say a big hand to Will for coming out here and hanging out with us today. A little wobbly on the roll gains. I can adjust those. Let's go up to a tail slide with it. Get out of Will's way. Interesting. A lot of jets don't do that. The Fun Swedish jet does that though. It's very stable in the air. I like it. Let's see what happens when we put it into, everybody else does high alpha. Let's try inverted high alpha.
Let's do it.
We're doing it. You know we're coming down lower with this, right? Okay, kind of flopped out of it. Let's do a regular high alpha pass. I think this jet can handle it. Gonna hold the full elevator back here.
2 minutes.
Oh yeah, man, this is kind of fun actually. I see why everybody likes this jet for high alpha. Look at it go. So high alpha so far, it's very simple. Just hold the stick back. It does have a tendency to want to depart a little bit. So you can correct that with rudder.
22.25 volts.
Not really a big deal. Let's bring it back in for another high alpha pass. There we go, using some rudder to keep her straight. Part of the reason why it flies so well is because it has the fixed stabilators. I mean, this is actually, if you want to learn high alpha in a jet, this is one of the easiest jets to do it with.
22.61 volts.
Let's go ahead and do a straight high-speed pass, coming right down the taxiway.
3 minutes. High G.
Put it into the high G maneuvering.
Wing normal.
Yeah, dude. We're gonna do more with this jet for sure. But before we go,
23.06 volts.
23.06 volts. I want to try inverted high alpha a little bit more. Got to keep it correcting with the rudder. Okay, it started to laterally depart. I was kind of expecting that. The 80mm does the same thing. The only difference between these two is the weight. Let's go ahead and do a brake pass. Okay, take a couple steps back from me, sir. Just in case this thing decides to screw off in the worst possible direction we can have it go, which is into you or me, or Kieran. Aviation safety is paramount, guys. We have flaperons, but I suspect we will not need to use them, and I don't really want to. They're just there for the high G maneuvering stuff. May have to do another pass. Come on, baby, stay on the runway.
23 volts.
Kind of want to just take it off again and turn it around and land it one more time, but I think we can turn her. Yeah, we don't have to go out and do the walk of shame in this ridiculous North Carolina heat to get it back. We're pretty good. So far, my impressions are, if you had to give me, or if you wanted me to give a maiden score for this thing for the first flight, my initial impressions are I like it. It's actually pretty good. I don't like the lack of full flying stabilators. I think it should have them. Any jet that in full scale has them should have them in radio control.
23 volts.
Overall though, I like the gear. You can actually see the nose wheel. It's bouncing up and down as it goes down the runway. So it's got a lot of kind of, what is it, trailing link to it. Maybe not trailing. It's got some nice suspension to it. It's better gear than people were giving it credit for. However, I use 85% Expo on my rudder with 150% rates to prevent it from doing this. It's not hard to do this. I'm barely moving this thing with my hand, and see how it's tipping? This will happen. There's a reason why I've got white electrical tapes on the outside of the missile pylons, on the wingtips. I also cut the missile off, both missiles off, because it's a Air Force Thunderbirds jet. They're not gonna have missiles. It just looks kind of dumb, in my opinion. But honestly though, with the 5280 RC system, looks amazing in the sky. This is the first of many flights, hopefully today. So we'll bring it back up in a little bit. Big thanks again to Will for coming out and filming, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, so we're back with a 70mm F-16, continuing our review. Before Kieran gets up on the drone and chases us in high alpha, I'm gonna mention that be careful with the connectors, especially as it starts getting hotter out here and your hands start getting sweatier. Trying to get the battery connector the EC5 to EC5 connection off. I did this to my finger. It doesn't look bad, but there's a whole chunk of skin coming off right there because I used too much force and tore a chunk of my skin off. So that's something to be concerned with. Overall impressions so far, it flies really well, solid 8.5 out of 10. It could be a 9 or 10 out of 10 if it came with actual proper hinges. The fact that I have to add them is kind of a negative. I don't trust these foam hinges. I'm going to rehinge this if I'm going to keep this plane because I can't guarantee that it's going to survive what I'm doing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take off. Again, reminder guys, we do have the high G mixing in here, which does help with some authority. And we're going to test out some more stuff. We're going to do some more alpha passes, which is pretty much what everybody does in this jet. Ready to go, mate?
Yep.
Let's do it. And the 5280 RC Afterburner. Let's do this. So one of the things that immediately happens with this jet is that it's a lot harder to get up off of the ground because it doesn't have full flying stabilators like the F-16 80mm does. So you have to have a lot more airspeed on the ground to get it up. So that right there, you saw it depart laterally. That was me adding the alpha mixing to it. So it's actually much more stable without the alpha mixing. We're not going to do that ever again. There we go. Lateral departure can happen from messing with those control surfaces. But I got some fast reactions, so I can get through it pretty quick. All right, we can do more with this though.
23.81.
So let's go ahead and turn it around. You catching up with me, Kieran? We're coming in nice and slow, bud. Level those wings out. You have to level them out. If you don't level them out, the plane will stall in the direction of the dropped wing. Lowest alpha pass yet. Here we go. A little bit of throttle mod can help. All right. We're going to go up. We're going to put it into an aggressive alpha pass. Straight ahead, vertical. Oh, we were. Sort of getting sketchy. Now see if we can turn it around in alpha using rudder alone. Being real careful is to not drop the wing too hard. A little bit of contrary aileron. Oh yeah, dude, this thing is so controllable. Alpha monster. Look at this thing go. This is cheating, how easy this is. This plane can get you into some bad habits for alpha passes because alpha passes generally aren't as easy. So this plane definitely makes me look better than I am, although I can do high alpha with a lot of stuff that I shouldn't be able to do it with. Going back over again. One more pass with it. Let's go ahead and turn her.
22.31 volts.
Starting to depart laterally, there we go. You can use counter aileron. So if you turn into to the left, you can use right aileron to level the wings out. You have to keep the wings level. That is the most critical part of high alpha on this jet and many other jets especially. This thing weighs almost nothing. The thrust to weight is insane.
22.27 volts.
Let's try inverted high alpha, see how low we can get with it. Again, left rudder makes the plane go to the left when it's pointing at you. Right rudder makes it come at you. It's very touchy like this. It's not designed to do this at all, but it does do it. Full flying stabilators would make it a lot easier. Let's do some regular flying with it too. Full high speed pass right in front of us.
22.47 volts.
High G flaps. Not bad. Again, this plane's kind of a beginner's plane in some ways, so it flies really well for being a beginner's plane. It's very, very stable in the air. Got a torque roll out of it. You saw that?
Saw it.
Let's do that again. If you can get them into a hover, sometimes you can torque roll them. As you apply throttle,
21.48 volts.
sometimes you can get it. If we had had clouds there, it would have been perfect. Let's try a high-speed knife edge, see how much the rudder has effect while we're flying it, so we continue to review it. We also need to review how it stalls too. Rudder's actually relatively effective. All right, let's do a regular power off a stall and see how it accelerates stalls as well. So holding elevator, it just comes down very gently. Very gently, very, very, very gentle stall. Okay, stall testing number 1 is done. So that's our regular power off stall. Wings level, let's do a power off stall and pull the plane into a left bank. Okay, power off. Should drop the wing. It does not, it starts leveling it. Okay, cool. Pretty good design so far. Now, let's see if we can put it into an accelerated stall with throttle and just hold as much elevator input as we can give it in a strong bank. It doesn't want to. That's remarkably stable.
5 minutes. 22.1 volts.
Got a shave and a haircut playing off there on the throttle. Did you hear that? It's dumb how easy this is to fly.
Gear down.
Bringing it in. Hold the nose up on approach. Level out the wings, hold the nose up, there we go. You're gonna use the alpha to destroy airspeed. Hold the angle of attack. Get away from that grass, thank you very much.
22.43 volts.
Honestly, I like how this thing flies, but mark my words, if you are new to flying planes, this thing will give you bad habits because it doesn't stall like a lot of other models do. It's got such little weight to it, and the thrust to weight ratio is so absurd that you can really power out of a lot of issues that you may not be able to power out of as easily with other models. Like the Viper 70 that Kieran's got in the grass over there, that one's got an aggressive, nasty stall tendency that power does help with, but ultimately you just gotta keep on top of that when you're flying it. Solid 9 out of 10 on this thing. So far, 9 out of 10. Loving this thing. This is fun. I just wish it had full flying stabs because I could do so much more with it if it did. All right, guys, so we are back with the F-16 70mm. Solid 9 out of 10, very performant, kind of lackluster on the roll. I could probably put an 8-channel in here and give it tailor-ons, now, especially now that I rehinged those elevator tips. But we're gonna go ahead and get her up. Again, key to taking this plane off, a lot of speed, so don't even try half throttle. Just go full with the 5280 burner in it. Then you can back off as you get up in the air. I want to try something real quick on this third flight with it. I want to try the alpha mixing upside down.
Alpha. Nice wing normal.
It was interesting for a second. Let's try it again.
Alpha. Wing normal.
Okay, that was weird. I don't think inverted high alpha is going to be something I can reliably do very close to the ground in this jet. But we'll see. This is being flown with an SMC 4060C pack, by the way. And that 5280 burner, the closer we get to sundown, the brighter it gets. It was already bright, and it's just getting brighter, like uncomfortably bright. Roll rate, again, is not the best. That's full 150% rates. Let's continue the stall testing. Let's see what she does upside down, holding full elevator. Using some rudder, there we go. Getting too close to those trees. Yeah, inverted alpha, funny enough, is not something this plane does very well, but regular high alpha can do it for days. Definitely a trainer plane in a lot of respects, but it's still a lot of fun to fly.
5G. Wing normal.
I mean, the fact that you can just hold the elevators like this with no penalty is absurd. Let's go ahead and turn her around. As the plane turns to the left, again, just add some right aileron to keep those wings level. You are still flying on the wing in high alpha. It's not just purely on thrust. It's not an actual Harrier. Unlike what some other people have said, this is just high alpha. High alpha meaning high angle of attack. The plane is still flying on wings. It is not flying on thrust alone. This is so easy, it's cheating. One of the reasons why I see so many people love this plane, just let off the elevator to get out of it. I have to scratch my mustache. Oh God, that's driving me nuts. All right, so back out of it. Again, I can't believe we're doing a tutorial vid and doing a maiden flight all in one go, but I mean, that's just how easy this plane is to fly, and it's one of the reasons why I'm giving it a solid 9 out of 10 in performance. I mean, look at how good that thing pulls around and stalls, or in turns. No accelerated stall tendencies at all. Look at me just janking it around.
23.18 volts.
Just ridiculous how good this plane is. So much thrust to weight ratio. It's absurd how good this is.
3 minutes.
Could be a little bit more power, but again, I'll take what I can get. See if we can get a good knife edge pass, low to the ground.
22.16 volts.
So this plane really does one thing really well, which is high alpha, right? That's its one. It's kind of a one-trick pony. It does other stuff too, but it doesn't teach you how to fly a jet. So don't go into this expecting, like, once you've mastered this jet that you're going to be okay flying other stuff that's heavier or more expensive. This plane can give you really bad tendencies. There is no other plane I know of that you can fly like this, almost right out of the box, in this manner. So don't go around expecting to fly the Viper 70 like this, because it's going to stall. What do you think, William?
Yeah, that Viper 70 will stall on you in a heartbeat.
You're not gonna
learn really quick.
You're just not gonna be able to do this stuff with it. Now let's do some other tests with it real quick while we still have some battery power on this SMC pack. I want to take it up. I want to see if we can flat spin it. I very much doubt that we can. But I think we might be able to if it shares the same characteristics as the 80 millimeter that I've got. Scratch my neck, I got bugs on it. There we go. Get into the stall. Not a flat spin, but very close to it.
It tried. Yeah, it tried.
Okay. Let's see if it'll do inverted flat spins. It's got a pretty good sound for a 70 millimeter motor. This is the same motor that you can find in the Viper that Kieran was just flying.
21.63 volts.
Kind of does inverted flat spins too.
Nice, right into that high alpha.
It's absurd. Again, just really absurd.
Gear down.
We're just gonna drop the gear, turn her around, bring her in.
5 minutes.
Got some owls out there laughing at each other.
4 volts.
Again, the key to landing this plane, like any F-16, is to hold high alpha on approach, meaning keep your nose up for layman's terms. That's all there is to it. Hold your nose up. Throw the flaps all the way out, the flaperons to get it to slow down a little faster. We don't have thrust reverse on the stock ESC. There's the tipping I was talking about. You gotta be very careful about when you turn the jet, otherwise it will tip over. It is very prone to that. That's why I have 85% Expo when the gear are down on the rudder at 150% rates. You can see I'm moving the sticks a lot and the jet's barely responding to it. This is half stick right here. Full stick, much more responsive. See the difference? But if I pull it too hard, it's gonna start tipping at a certain speed. So something you gotta watch out for. Wanna go up one more time with it? Do you mind? Okay, cool. We're gonna switch out to an SMC 4500 pack. We're gonna cut right here and come right back. All right, so we're back. This is an SMC 4500 40C pack. These batteries are actually less prone to being stuck on the EC connection versus the Spectrum Smart 50 ECs. Those were getting stuck. No matter what I did, I cut my finger up pretty good on it. I had to use a Band-Aid here earlier, and then it just kind of fell off because of the sweat and this heat. We're all feeling it right now, man. It's pretty rough out here. But we have some good weather coming our way soon, so we might be able to get out here in much better weather very soon. Okay, this is the pack we just flew on. It's getting a little warm for sure. All right, put the pack over here. Let's take her up. I kind of want to try Flaperon, so we're going to take off with half Flaperons here and see if we can get the takeoff roll even slower or faster. Yeah, okay. Flaperons make a... You saw the difference on that, Will?
Yeah.
Gear up.
Cool. Heavier pack so far, but no appreciable differences in trim.
Alpha, swing normal.
Still can bring it right into high alpha. I'm sure you guys are getting bored of seeing this, but it's just so easy to do. I mean, look at how stable this is. I got to punch out over there. I don't want to hit that that rod. When Tony was flying the E-flite 80mm F-16 for the first time, he accidentally hit a a rod that was unfortunately placed.
3.99.
We're gonna do another alpha pass, but this time we're gonna come straight into it. There we go. Got the charger going, bud? Cool. Coming straight down the taxiway, I need you to just take a step back. Unless you want it to fly right next to your head. It's totally controllable and it won't even hurt, I promise.
The closer the better. That's what the fans want to see.
Hitting that grass.
27 minutes.
Okay.
High G.
I'm gonna leave the high G mixing on
23.4.
and see how much more pitch authority we can really get, just leaving it on all the time. Oh yeah, it definitely feels a bit more authoritative as you fly it. Can you see it deflecting up there? The flaperon's popping out.
No, I wasn't able to get it just now. Alright, let's try it now.
Let's see how it does high alpha with the flaperons now. I bet it's gonna stall. Yeah, it's trying to stall. It was like constantly rolling to the right because of the asymmetric lift. Let's get a high speed pass finally. We've done too much high alpha with this thing. That has got sound comparable to an 80mm. Insanity. This thing is amazing.
0.68 volts.
You know what we haven't done yet though? True Thunderbird's pass
Gear down.
Inverted.
with the gear out.
Gear up.
High alpha in this thing is so fun, it's absurd. I could probably fly this in my cul-de-sac and land it like this. Let's turn it around. Again, you guys watch my hands, you see how easy this is. You just hold full elevator the whole time, even with the full 150% rates that I'm using. It's even better like this. Just cancel out the roll that you get with some of the aileron as you turn around and with the rudder. You just modulate your throttle and you're good to go, man. I couldn't hear you over the sound of how awesome that is. What was that?
Did someone say tail touch?
I came very close to it. I was almost trying to, but I didn't want to rip up the ventral fins. What's our power level?
22.29 volts.
22.29 volts. So we gotta get ready to land here soon. Let's do a brake pass for real. This is also called a military overhead pattern, F100. One of my YouTube community members, awesome dude, used to be a former fighter pilot. I believe he flew the F-16 as well. Told me that pretty much that's how you fly it. You pick a point, turn aggressively, get the plane into the pattern. You don't even have to worry about winds like this. You just get it in quick so that way you're already sinking and then ready to drop the plane on the ground. So we're gonna hold a high alpha approach. There we go. All right, so as we go ahead and get this thing taxied back over here, final thoughts, solid 9 out of 10. Solid 9 out of 10. I wish the gear were a little bit more scale, but at this scale, you're not gonna get that. You gotta have some corners have to be cut somewhere to shrink things down. That's the reason why we don't have full flying stabilators in this model too. Does it look good? Yes. Does it fly exceptionally well? Yes. To a point where it's going to train you to fly in ways that other jets will not. So if you get this jet and you expect the 70 Viper to fly like that, Kieran's jet that he's currently working on over there, it ain't gonna do that. It just ain't. you have to do extensive modification to that jet with receiver adjustments and crow and some other stuff to get it to even approach what this thing can do. Because of the delta on the wings and because of the fixed stabs, these are acting as wings in high alpha and keeping the jet up in the air. You're not gonna get this performance out of other jets. So don't go into it thinking that you will. But if you just wanna rip around in high alpha and have fun, or you wanna learn how an F-16 tends to handle, this is the jet for you. If you want to step up to the F-16 80mm, this will also teach you how an F-16 flies to an extent. However, the F-16 80mm flies much more like an actual full-scale F-16 because it has full moving stabs instead of tiny little elevator tips. So again, as I said earlier, solid 9 out of 10. I'm having fun with it. I was able to tear around with this thing in the sky, do all sorts of really cool stuff with it. And I want you guys to all say, you know, big thanks to Will. He's also RC Pilot Will on YouTube. Don't you have another channel too? It's a
Fuquay Flyers.
Fuquay Flyers. If you're wondering why the name's called Fuquay, because one of the towns here in Raleigh is called Fuquay Varina. It's a weird name, but that's what the town's called. So Fuquay Flyers, you're good people. Who flies with you? Alex and his son?
Yeah, Alex, JJ, and Garrison.
We'll have to get some of those other guys to come hang out sometime.
Yeah.
So for now, we're gonna sign out, but we appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you again out there. What's going on, guys? So by this point, you've seen the maiden video, and I hope you enjoyed. I tried to push this maiden as hard as I could. I didn't want to just sit there and fly in circles and other basic stuff. You guys need to see how these things really perform, and this little jet right here is a performer. I think I'm going to keep it. Normally, you guys who've watched the channel for a while know that I prefer full flying stabs, just like the actual. If it's a full-scale jet, it should have full flying stabs like this 80mm F-16 does, but because this one doesn't, you know, it's not the end of the world, and in fact it does fly pretty good. So let's go ahead and get this thing on my head, and then we're going to go into the setup so you guys can see how to get the same performance that I'm getting out of yours. All right, so first and foremost, I actually did replace the receiver, not because there's anything wrong with an AR-631, but because I tend to fly a little further away and I want to have the added security of the extra antenna. So I'm going to take this off my head again. Actually, no, I won't. I'm just going to point it in here. You can see I ran the second antenna over here, so it's lengthwise, widthwise it is, and I got one running along the front of the plane as well, which is giving plenty of coverage. So I've got one running to the front here, and I've got one running to the side. All right, I've got the 4050C Smart Pack shoved as far back as I can get it to fit in here. I could probably go even further. There we go, which gives us a center of gravity that is roughly, one second, let's go ahead and get that canopy back on. There we go. That is roughly about where it is on my 80mm F-16, about where that first circle is on the wing right there. So that allows the plane to fly around in high alpha with no problem at all, just holding full elevator, and you get a good 35 to 45 degree angle of attack the entire time. It's pretty cool. The jet is set up as a Flaperon wing type, so you do need to go in there and cut the Y lead that goes to it. I'll show you guys how that is done real quick. It's not hard at all. Let me grab one of my Y lead connectors here really fast out of my bucket. Actually, I've got one in my E-flite box down here. So I'm gonna hold this in front of my face, and literally this is all you do. I'm not gonna cut it because I'm gonna save it, but you just come in here and you snip it. Like, you push this as far apart as you can get it, and you just snip right there at the lead, okay? And then you take this lead and then you use a DuPont connector, one of these buggers right here, and you just crimp a new connector like this onto the end of it. And what you get when you do that is the ability to split the lead without having to rerun the entire servo wire, which is a real time saver for getting this stuff done. So let's go ahead and turn on the screen recorder so you guys can see what we're doing. I also have the 5280 RC afterburner in the butt here. So it's a really good system. You guys should be getting one. They're not terribly expensive. I think this one's like 50 bucks, maybe 70 at most. Although I do need to adjust the connector on the receiver. It is slightly popping out. There we go. Now it should be good to go. Yeah, I need to probably redo that connector. As you saw, the left aileron wasn't working, but now it will be. Just one of the pitfalls when you make your own connectors. You got to make sure that they're seated just right. All right, so you can see that we've got full Flaperon, so they actually do work really well for takeoff. I don't see a point for landing, but you could try them if you wanted to.
50.
And we also have the high G mixing and the alpha mixing, which is basically useless, although it might work good upside down. I think I did try it and it didn't do much. I may try the high G mixing instead next time to get some additional flap out of it. But let's start with the basics. Again, the wing type on this model, making sure that we're recording, and we are. The wing type on this model is, again, Flaperon. Holding the plane just in case it decides to power up for no reason. Flaperon wing type, really simple stuff. Okay, so you go to your channel assign. On a 6-channel receiver, it's going to default to right aileron being channel 2, elevator being 3, rudder being 4, 5 being gear, and 6 being left aileron. Once you plug those in, you're all set as far as setting it up goes. You also have to unlock the receiver. You can look up the video called Unlocking AR637TA. That'll show you how to unlock any other Spectrum receiver that's a current generation, including the AR631. Let's go ahead and show you guys the rates. To unlock 150% rates, you also have to unlock the receiver. Check that setup. I may even show you guys how to do it in a setup video at some point, but for right now, it's just out of the breadth of expertise for what we need to show here. And Spectrum RC has already covered it, so you guys can see how to do it real easy. So we're using, again, full 150% travel on all surfaces. So right aileron 150, elevator 150, rudder 150, and left aileron 150. That gives you a very good amount of deflection, both up and down, and left and right. Tons of controllability, very, very few issues controlling this plane with that amount of rates. With rates goes the amount of Expo you need to use. So I'm flying with 100% rates when the gear are up, and 50% Expo on ailerons, rudder, ailerons and elevator, and rudder is always 85%. I could change the rudder so it's 50% when the the gear are up, but for now we're just going to leave it as always at 85%. When the gear are out, I need to actually lift the plane to drop the gear. So 1 second. This stand will catch them. Oh, I can't hold it by that wing either because it's going to fall off. There we go. I didn't screw the wings in yet.
Gear down. Gear up. Throttle open.
There we go. Okay, go ahead and pop it back down. Yeah, the gear design on this is not exactly conducive to putting into a stand and dropping and lifting the gear at the same time. 67% rates is what I use with 40% Expo, although I screwed it up slightly. I made it 41% on the right side. 67% rates translates to 100% travel. 67% of 150% is a 100% travel. Just if you're wondering why it's 67. 67% rates on the elevator with 40% Expo. Same Expo as the ailerons, and rudder again is still 85%. So that's the info on that. The flap system that I'm using for Flaperons, if you guys want to know how that's done, switch D is what I use to control it. Position 1 is negative 40%. It gives you a deflection of what you can see currently. Elevator compensation is 10% up. Position 2 is negative 80% and negative 20% with a deployment speed of 4 seconds. I didn't actually test the flaps out in midair. I didn't really see a point to it. I just used it to get off the ground. So if you want to land with Flaperons, you're going to need to tinker with the elevator compensation. So don't blame me if that fails. I haven't tested it completely. I just used it to take off a couple of times and it works pretty good. It actually shortens the takeoff roll by about 50 feet. All right, going to mixing. We're gonna make this quick because there's not really a whole lot to this plane because it's an F-16. We have my, what do you want to call it, Flix control system, FCS mixing, whatever you want to call it. It's just a throttle to gain mix. So this controls my gains on my, AS3X system, but we'll come back to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and start with the H to gear. This is my gear lock switch. When I have throttle cut enabled, I can't move the gear or pull them up or do anything with them. That is switch H. So if you scroll down to switch H on your screen, and then control gear channel, so H to gear, at a rate of negative 125 on the right side to an offset of 100%, locks the gear at negative 150, which prevents them from doing anything as long as that switch is enabled. If you throw the switch, you can then move them up and down, but you can't do it when the switch is not down. All right, next up is, there's actually only one more mix that I can recall, and I don't even know what I did. Oh, it's up in the elevator to flap mix. Here we are. So this is controlled by switch B. This is my high G mixing. Full-scale aircraft like the F-16, when you go to give it elevator deflection, the flight computer will actually throw the leading edge slats, or what do they call leading edge flaps, and the trailing edge flaps, aka the flaperons. It'll actually throw out and create a much bigger wing camber as the plane is accelerating through a high G maneuver to give it as much lift as possible. So this kind of emulates that. So when you go to switch 1, rate of -100 to -100 gives you that leading edge, or sorry, that trailing edge effect that you see here. So as I pull elevators, the flaps deploy. As I push elevators, the flaps go upward. They probably don't do that in the full-scale F-16 because no pilot's actually going to do a full high G red-out maneuver like this, where the blood's going to rush to your head with a negative G, what do you call it, negative G maneuver. But I mean, RC planes don't really have that limitation, so this should help with that as well. This did actually increase the pitch authority by about 50%. It was noticeable in the air. I would definitely recommend doing it if you want more pitch authority out of this plane. If you want more roll authority, I'd say go with an 8-channel and give yourself differential, or I would call them tailerons, because these aren't even stabilators, they're fixed. So these would actually be tailerons, just elevators functioning as ailerons. Then you could actually add those into the roll and get a much better roll response. For the alpha mixing, which is actually useless, but if you want to try it for yourself, it's just a rate of 100 to 100. And as you pull the elevator, the flaperons move up, and vice versa. In my testing, when I tested this out on the Maiden, pulling this up caused the plane to push to the right. As you can see, the rudder direction actually yawed to the right and started falling out of high alpha because the wings started stalling asymmetrically. Or actually, it wasn't even stalling asymmetrically. What it was lateral departure from, I think it actually blocked airflow from hitting the vertical stabilizer, so it stopped being controllable. There's some aerodynamic reason for it. I'm sure an aerodynamicist will explain, but this pretty much does not, like, don't do this. Don't try to fly it like that. Just hold it like this and you're good to go. That is basically the extent of the mixing I use, except for the rates, or the throttle-based gains. So to show you that, I actually have to go into forward programming. So let's go ahead and go in there. I copied the settings over and made them a little bit more powerful, so I actually need to change them back. So we're gonna set the roll gains stock were 14%, and I think it was at 2x rates, like 2x gains sensitivity. So for now, we're gonna leave it at 14, and then pitch and yaw at 90% is what I'm using, and that produces a pretty good response. Let me go ahead and back out of it and activate the system. Okay, actually, yeah, it caught the gear on there, like I said it would. All right, now that we've got the system running, you can actually see very little aileron control needed. Elevators move up and down a little bit, rudder moves a bit too. Elevators are perfectly tuned. I saw no porpoising or any weirdness with that. The ailerons did give me a bit of trouble, so I'm okay with reducing their effectiveness. So putting them back to the stock setup is fine. Back into the system here. AS3X settings, again, gains are 14, 90, and 90. That's across the first flight mode. The second flight mode is 38, 100, and 100. That's just if it's super gusty and I need some stabilization coming in for landing. And then safe is 14, 52, 68, which is the actual default values. So if you wanted to go with those default values by reprogramming it, it's roll 14, pitch 52, and yaw 68.
AS3X.
That is basically everything. I can't think of anything else that I haven't covered yet. Let me double check. I can show you guys safe settings if you want to know what I'm using. I just use default safe gains. So 35, like if you change the roll gain to 73, you get a lot more controllability, but because it's going to be gyro limited, it'll kind of bounce and it'll look weird in the sky. So leaving it nice and soft like this is fine. The angle limits that I'm using are 60, 60, 40, and 50, which are pretty normal. So I wouldn't mess with those unless you really want it to fine tune safe, but I just use it to kind of get myself back into orientation if I've ever lost orientation for any reason, which can happen even if you have perfect eyesight like I do. What else did I do? And then if you go into system setup and go into, I think it's safe panic mode setup, I think, yeah, attitude trim. I always set an attitude trim of about 8 to 10 is usually pretty good. It makes the plane fly slightly nose up, which keeps it level so you don't have to keep pulling the elevator. That's basically all I've done to this. So that covers, I think, everything you guys need to know about this plane. If there's something I didn't cover that you want to know about, chances are you can see it in another setup video that I've done. The one last thing I will mention while we're on camera here is if you want voltage telemetry like I have, like if you see the screen here where it says 22.81 volts, you need a voltage cable and you need a receiver that actually supports voltage telemetry, and you'll plug it into this little volt port you'll see here. I've got a piece of tape on it to kind of hold a wire out of the way, but there's a volt port there with a volt cable going to it, and the volt cable is spliced in with electrical tape. I just cut the ESC lead, plugged it in there, and then taped the lead in place so it couldn't come off ever again. I will caution you, if you're using smart batteries, the stock EC5 connector messed up my finger pretty good. It doesn't like to let go of these battery packs, and because it was so hot, I kind of sloughed off part of my skin on my finger, and it really hurts even now as I'm pulling that battery loose. You can kind of see it there. It's like raw skin, so just be careful pulling that off. The sharp corners here can dig right into your skin and slough part of it right off like it's not even there. Hope you guys found this enjoyable and interesting, and of course more coming pretty soon. See you guys out there. Oh yeah, I probably should say it on camera, shouldn't I? All right, again, see you guys out there. Cheers.